So taking you through our runners as they get underway from the inside station, representing Box Hill, Steve Deneen; from Knox Athletics, Craig Appleby; from Glen Huntly, Toby Raynor; from St Kevin's, Anthony Alosio; from Athletics Chilwell, Julian Spence; from Melbourne University, Mark Kirwan; from Wodonga, Hirataka Tanamoto; from Doncaster, Benjamin Ashkettle; from Box Hill, Mitchell Dyer; from Box Hill, Joe Hardy; from Frankston, Dane Verway; from Box Hill, Michael Dow; from Oakley, Matthew Davey; from Glen Huntly, Joshua Papanicolaou; from Bendigo Harriers, Sean Garrity; and from Box Hill, Peter Green. So Alosio, the runner from St Kevin's, just starting to inject a little bit of pace at the front of the field now, and 250 he comes through in. Raynor and Appleby hot on his tail, just a little bit of a gap back to Deneen and Ashkettle there, but right on 14.10 pace through the first kilometre for Anthony Alosio. So Alosio really working hard at the front of the field through the early stages, or certainly hard enough to stretch out the rest of his competitors. No concern for trying to use the runners around him to work together. He's content to try and go out and run a fast time all on his own tonight by the looks of things, and already he's starting to stretch out from Appleby and Raynor, who in turn, perhaps a little bit surprisingly, have opened up a pretty substantial gap back to Deneen and Ashkettle. Also in the mix there, Joe Hardy, Julian Spence as mentioned, and Mark Kirwan as well, with a 14.32 to his name as well, so in pretty good shape as well, the Melbourne University runner. So just a little bit of a move there from Craig Appleby, closing the gap back to Alosio nicely, which leaves Raynor somewhat in no man's land at the moment. Might need to make a little bit of a spurt if he does want to try and get onto the back of these two leaders and get dragged through. Still it is Deneen, Ashkettle, Spence, Hardy and Kirwan making up that chase pack of 5, with a distinct second chase group now having been formed some 20 metres back. The runner from Wodonga, Hirataka Tanamoto in the mix there. And it might in fact be Joe Hardy leading that chase group around, Mitchell Dyer perhaps in that first group. But Appleby it is at the front of the field now. So still it's Appleby, the runner from Knox, at the front of the field. Alosio hot on his heels, and Raynor maybe just starting to eat into that gap of fraction. It's about 7.25 they go through in with 6 laps remaining. 7.22 right on pace for 14.10. So they've kept up the pace nicely, these two runners at the front of the field, having thrown down the early 250 and setting the bar at around the 14.10 mark. And Mitchell Dyer maybe just starting to feel the pinch a little bit in this chase group. Gap of about 10 metres or so now. Our leaders come up with just over 2k remaining. They could find themselves right back in this race, Deneen and co. But it will take a big effort because they're doing it nicely at the front of the field. 8.35 it is through 3k for Appleby and Alosio. And we are down to a chase pack of 3. It's being driven really hard by Ashkettle at the moment. He's rapidly eating into the advantage of Raynor. And this chase group could well find themselves back in contention within the next lap or so. So Raynor, one of the early leaders, has been caught now as Ashkettle, Spence and Kirwan take up duties in that chase pack, although it could be something of a relief for Raynor. As mentioned, he was somewhat stranded in no man's land there, and now it could be a chance for him to tuck on and try and get dragged along, although already it does look as though Ashkettle and co may just be starting to stretch him out a fraction. So things may be starting to get a little bit tough for Toby Raynor, rather, the runner from Glen Huntly, but still doing it really nicely at the front of the field. It's Appleby and Alosio. And it's about 11.30, so that pace has continued to drop just a fraction. 11.20 is what we would have liked to see to be on for that 14.10 pace. So it's going to take a big last K here. Once the move was made from Ashkettle, They really did start to eat into that ground quickly, so they're certainly in with a chance if they can really ramp things up over this last 700. But it is Appleby at the front of the field, just starting to stretch out from Alosio now, who might have a little bit of a fight on his hands if he wants to stay in contention over this final 600 metres. With just over a lap remaining, and maybe, just maybe, thinking he can reel this gap in. Still it is Appleby. He's done the bulk of the work so far in this race, and at the moment he's in the prime position to reap the rewards. He's opened up a gap of about 5 to 7 metres back to Alosio, who's still going strong, but at this stage just can't quite seem to be able to cut into that advantage. Looking back through the field, still it's Kirwan in third, still going strong, continuing to stretch away from the rest of those chasers. But Alosio is really putting in the big ones down the back straight now, so too Appleby at the front, and Kirwan with a big challenge on his hands if he wants to try and reel in the gap. It's not deterring him though. Fraction by fraction, he's starting to eat into it. Appleby it is, though, at the front of the field, and it's looking like he's going to take some catching now with just over 100 metres remaining. And they're not going to get him. Craig Appleby, he's done all the hard work, and he's going to be rewarded for it here. He's going to be very close to a personal best, and unfortunately not quite going to sneak under, although with an electronic time, having gone in with a hand time of 14:16.9. That might officially count as a new personal best for Craig Appleby. It's certainly been a great run. So too Antony Alosio, just couldn't quite hang on in the end. But an admirable performance in taking second, and Mark Kirwan with the fast finish comes through for third, and what may well be a new personal best.